Well, good evening, everybody. Whoa, pardon that noise. How are you, everybody? Good to see you. It's me, Mitch, and what a day. What a day. It's true what they say about the carnivore diet, my friends. I don't care how old you are. You can keep up like a healthy 20-year-old. It's unbelievable. I'm sitting here, I still have tremendous amount of energy. I'm not tired, I'm not sleepy. I started my day at 4:30 in the morning. I woke up, looked at the time, I said, just roll out. I got to get going early today. Had time to knock out a little morning coffee video talking about driving to Tampa. Got it posted. Had to leave for Tampa before 8 o'clock in the morning. And 3-hour drive in traffic from the East Coast of Florida to the West Coast via Orlando. Got there to the meetup a little early. There were some other people there early. We stood around outside and we talked for about a half an hour. Then we went inside and just waiting for 11:30 to get there so that we could get seated. And people started showing up. We started, and if you saw the little live stream I posted, you'll see that we ate. We ate like there was no tomorrow, and we ate meat. And we had to tell them, we had to give them specific instructions. They wanted to give us all time to go to the salad bar and fill up on that stuff. And there was little dishes of bread on the table in front of us. All the things, all the pitfalls and traps that you normally find in a restaurant. Now, I know that Michael had pre-warned them that we don't want that stuff, but you know how it is. People forget, people don't pay attention. Anything that's out of the ordinary of what they normally do doesn't happen most of the time, and it didn't happen today. Well, we resisted the bread. I finally got the waitress to take it all away. I said to the waitress, bring on the meat. She said, well, we're waiting for you guys to finish the salad bar. I said, we don't eat salad bars. We're carnivores. Do you know what that means? And she got the idea. And the next thing you know, the parade of guys with meat on skewers started coming out. And we ate, and everything was delicious. We had a great time. The people were great. The people were terrific. Most of them diehard carnivores, people that have been doing this for a while, and you could see by looking at them how healthy they were, how in shape they were. And it was so gratifying to see so many iterations of what happens to people when they do this. It was so gratifying and validating to me to know that I'm not the Lone Ranger here in the world, that so many other people see the same benefits. And we talked about it, and we ate. I did that little live stream. I also recorded a little video where I wandered around, stuck a microphone in the face of some of the people. Everybody introduced themselves and took some close-up pictures of the meat and things, and I'll probably put that out tomorrow. It's not going to be a long video, but it will show you a little more about what these Brazilian steakhouses are all about. It's amazing. Anyway, we ate. And then another interesting phenomenon. People just started to push their plates away. Almost like it was written in a script. Me too. You just keep eating and eating, and I don't think I actually really, if I would say how many pounds of food do I eat, I don't think I ate much more than a pound of meat. And I was fully satiated, and so was everybody else. I don't think that a dessert cart could have tempted any one of us. We were done eating. There was temptation all around. It went unnoticed for the large part. It's true. It's true. The changes that happen to you really do knock those addictions out. And it was really gratifying for me to see that not just my messaging, but messaging like mine hasn't been falling on all deaf ears. That for those people that take it seriously, admit that they're addicted to this stuff, and eat meat whenever they get hungry, find it's not hard to kick the addiction at all, which is an amazing, amazing thing to me. And it's a shame that alcoholics and drug users don't have a crutch like that they can do. The drug users have methadone. Cigarette smokers have nicotine patches, but it's great that our addiction can be cured by just eating the meat that makes you healthy and not worrying about how much of it you eat. And I'm telling you, what a great feeling. I was overwhelmed with compliments and thank yous from the people that came. Kiltsy was there. He's a trip. I always enjoy meeting him. And he and I are going to get together and on YouTube and do something. I don't know what yet. He's not going to interview me. I'm not going to interview him. Maybe I'll invite him to be a guest on one of these live streams or something like that. But terrific guy. Sorry to say that Annette Bosworth didn't make it. I don't know why. Nobody knew why. We missed her, but we did have a great time. And then I hit the road to come back, and I drove for another 3 hours. Got back to Melbourne in time for the afternoon rush hour, and of course, the last 2 miles seemed like they would never end. And I got home, and I wasn't tired. I felt fine. I also had no desire to eat anymore, which is the cool part. Today has been an OMAD day. That one meal that we ate at that restaurant was more than sufficient to keep me going. And interestingly enough, and I told the people there, because everybody is eating, and some bald-headed lunatic is running around with a cell phone live on YouTube talking to everybody, doing everything except eating. And I wasn't even that hungry. That still blows my mind. I wasn't that hungry. And everybody starts saying, "You got to eat, Mitch, start eating." And I said, I could eat. But I also could not have eaten. And that's the amazing part. I actually, after almost 24 hours without food, could have done nothing but act like a wedding photographer, watching everybody else eat, and not having any cravings or hunger pangs or anything. Food has become so just matter of fact. And I think that's where it's supposed to be. You know, in the lives of humans, I think food is supposed to be okay, I could eat. I could also breathe. I could sleep. Things you don't have to chase after. Things you're not compelled. Well, I guess you're compelled to breathe, but not consciously. And it really does happen. It really happens. And today, sometimes even those of us that are yapping about it all the time, we need a little confirmation that, hey, what do you know? I can't believe it. This stuff really works. Who'd have thunk it? And that was the day, and it was just great fun. And I think based on everybody wanted to do it again, but I think that, and the suggestions were that we do one still in Florida, but we do one more centrally located like Orlando. Now they've got a number of these Brazilian steakhouses in Orlando. And that might be great because that can bring people from all over the state. We had people drive a couple hours to get there. We had Scott from Sebring, which is a couple hour drive. We had people from the Villages, which is quite a bit north of Tampa. We drove over from Melbourne, and Mike Seeley put it together, and his father, who lives over here, drove over with me, and we just had a great time today. And the whole day I was saying, man, I got to get back because I got a live stream to do tonight. And everybody said, what? I said, yeah, I can do it. No problem. No problem. And here I am. I see somebody put a question in the chat already. Also, Mark C. has gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And the recipients of the gift, look at this. Coco. Yeah. Coco got a gift membership. Fabulous. Paula Tharp, Bike Man, 1969. Mike Misguided. And Cynthia Shell got gifted memberships. Say thank you to Mark C. And we hope to see you in the private community. It'd be great Thursday night. See if you like it. It's growing and people are loving it, and I love it. It's my favorite YouTube activity of the week is that Thursday night meeting with those I consider my friends now. And it's just great. It's just great. I see Jonathan's here from Alaska. How you doing, Bags Pack family? Good evening to you. And I will start saying hi to people in the chat. You all know that I'm not a doctor. I don't give medical advice, certainly not one-on-one advice. I tell you how I do things, what worked for me, general observations about carnivore, some of my theories on how to kick your addictions and why. I end up going down lots of rabbit holes that get very complicated sometimes. But I'm not a doctor. Not a doctor, nor a credentialed nutritionist. Although, in reality, the only thing a credentialed nutritionist needs to know, and the course to get credentialed as a nutrition expert could be done in 2.5 minutes. Basically, eat meat. Repeat. Doesn't even take 2.5 minutes. I'm still drinking decaffeinated coffee. I don't feel the need for any more caffeine, nor would I ever drink caffeine after. I never drink any after I have my first cup in the morning early. So it was a wonderful day. Look out for a video tomorrow about meeting some of the people that came. I did get a great comment today, and I want to read it to you before I forget. It's just so cool. And I read it while I was there at the meetup, and I thought it was funny. It's clever as hell. I don't recognize the name of the user. It says, and think about this if you're older. It is so weird to me to be the same age as old people. That's exactly how I feel. I couldn't have said it better myself. That was beautiful. I love it. I would have that made into a sampler and hang it on the wall in the kitchen. It is so weird to me to be the same age as old people. And that sums it up. And I've said that many times. Most people, when they're younger and see somebody pushing 80 years old, they say, that's an old person. And that's how old I am. And I don't consider myself an old person. Oh, I joke around about it, call myself a grumpy old fart, things like that. But I don't consider myself old. I don't feel old. I certainly don't act old. In fact, if anything, I act like a 12-year-old half the time. I feel both mentally and physically young, which you can't put that feeling into words. You can only experience it. You can tell people that's the way it feels, but they'll never know. You can also tell people what it's like to have food freedom, a term they've never had or can even comprehend, because their lives revolve around food. So I really enjoyed getting that comment today, and did put a smile on my face. Let's see who we got here. I'm gonna go back up in the. Anyway, Mark, thank you so much for that. Appreciate it so much. We had Boyd Lamb come in here early, and I didn't actually post the stream until I got back from Tampa today. So it was after 4 o'clock for the early birds to come in. But Boyd was the first one. Cliff Medina came in. How you doing? Juan Manuel from Chile. How you doing, my friend? And my buddy Jody Drone Shots from my old drone days. And I can usually count on the 4 of them to always be the first ones in, even if I post that thing early in the morning. Michael Seeley, greetings from Tampa Bay. Michael, thank you again, man. Thank you so much. You did a great job. Michael, I delegated this to Michael to put that together over there in Tampa, and did a great job. We had, I guess, about 30 people all together. It was a great meeting. It was just so good, so gratifying to meet everybody. So, Michael, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing that. And we'll make you drive a little bit when we do the next one in Orlando. We have Belmont. Leon, how you doing? How you feeling, Mitch? I'm on the side waiting. Good to see you, my friend. Mike is here. Excellent meetup today. Thank you for all that attended. This is to be the first of many. And is this Mike? I was called into work early, working 16 hours tomorrow. Carnivores unite. CB Carmack, good to see you. And yeah, I was glad to see Kiltsy make it to the meetup. He's just a ray of sunshine. He may not be a ray of effing sunshine like I am, but he's a ray of sunshine. I've never seen a human being in my life any more positive than Kiltsy is. He's a dynamo, that guy. A dynamo. I wish I had $1 for every selfie that was taken at this thing today. And I'm almost embarrassed to be, I felt like the center of attention at first, and I'm still humble, and it's still that kind of thing is new to me. So I appreciate it. Spanky Golf Addict is here. We had a great thing, and I'm sorry to hear that you're sick as a dog with a friggin' fall cold. Get better, man. Get better. And then the Pamela Suarez chimed in. Sorry to hear that. Golf, she says. Texas, Tom is here. Good to see you, Tom. To everyone in Mitch's Carnivore Lifestyle Committee, hello from West Texas, and a good evening to all. Good evening to you, too. Tina Schweikerath was here twice in one day. Yeah, I was tickled to see you chime in, and that's really interesting. I got 44 people, or 46 at one point, in a 7-minute live stream. People that just were right there when I went live, and all of a sudden people started pouring in and they started chatting, and I'm doing it on my cell phone, and I'm doing it over 5G cellular internet because the Wi-Fi they had at this restaurant was nowhere near adequate to stream. And it worked pretty good. So the gods came together, gave me a strong enough signal inside the restaurant for my cell phone to be able to actually do a live stream. I did screw up the camera stuff a little bit because I think the sound may have gotten off a little bit. But, considering something that was like really impromptu like that, came out great. I hope you excuse me for being casual tonight. No fancy shirt. I wore my fancy shirt this afternoon. And I wore long pants this afternoon for the first time, I think, in a year or more, maybe. Actually, it's true. I don't ever go anywhere I need long pants. But I don't have any real good shorts that actually fit. I gave all the ones I had that were like huge to Goodwill. And I don't need to go out and buy any dress clothes. And I have a couple pair of jeans I bought. When I got down to a 32-inch waist, I went and bought two pair of 32 skinny jeans, and they fit me perfectly and very comfortable. So I wore the jeans with the blue shirt today, and I'm surprised anybody even recognized me. But because I got dressed up today and wore that shirt all day, I said, you know what? Normally on Tuesday night, I wear a nice shirt, try to make it a little more, I don't want to say formal, but a little more dressy. Tonight, you're going to have to love me in a T-shirt, and I like black T-shirts. And just to show you, I'll try to show you what this T-shirt says. So let me get this other view here, right there. And I'm going to maybe have to stand up for this, but it says, every day, thousands of innocent plants are killed by vegetarians. Wait a minute. Come on, Mitch. There it is. Help end the violence. Listen. Eat more bacon, it says. Eat bacon. Help end the violence. Eat bacon. That's a lot of stuff for one T-shirt, but I love this shirt. And I saw Sean Baker wearing one of these one day, too. Every day, thousands of innocent vegetables are killed by vegetarians. End the madness. Eat more bacon. Words to live by. Words to live by. Scooby the dog, Ellen is here. How you doing? And I saw a little later on, she said she's driving. So in the rain or whatever, just be careful. Be careful, Ellen. Linda G is here. How you doing? And everybody, these are friends. They're all, most of them from the private community. Become great friends. Got to meet Tom today. Viking 442. It was great meeting you, Tom. It really was. Good meeting. We didn't get too much of a chance to talk. I was going in so many different directions, but we talk on Thursday nights on the live stream, and it was great meeting you, and look forward to seeing you again, because we're going to have to keep doing that again. That was too much fun. That was too much fun. Richard Williams is here. Good to see you up in Copper Hill, Tennessee. And there's Coco, the newest member of our private community, Gifted. Good to see you, Coco. Who else haven't I said hi to? Oh, and here's Michael Seeley, father of United Carnivore. Hi, Mike. It's not like I didn't see Mike enough today. We rode in the car together, and Mike got to see how little patience this old guy has with bad drivers, and there's no shortage of them. And the more I drove and the longer the day got, the more impatient I got with these people. It's not a pleasure anymore. They're so distracted. I'm not going to complain about it here. Michael heard about that all the way home, but they get in that left lane, they speed up and slow down and speed up and slow down and create jams of people behind them, and they weave back and forth, and they're distracted as hell. They're doing everything but driving. They are so oblivious as to their situational awareness. It is crazy, and it is dangerous, and it's very stressful to drive. Now, the drive over was pretty easy because I wasn't in a hurry. We left early enough, had plenty of time. Most of the time my car has the cruise control, the adaptive, where it just locks itself behind the car in front. When they speed up, it speeds up. It's got lane centering, so it almost drives itself. And if you're not in a hurry and you don't care if you're going 68 miles an hour or 80 miles an hour, you just plant yourself in a lane that seems to be moving and just relax, listen to the music. But on the way home, when you want to get home, when you got things to do, when all of a sudden you're on a mission, then I just get impatient. It's not a good thing to get. It's stressful. I'm guilty. I actually do have a fault or two, if you can imagine the possibility of that. I know it's hard to believe. Not me. But we did get home. And Michael, just so you know, what I got home, what I came home to, and looking back on it, it is a little funny. We got off the interstate. We come down to the place where we're going to have to make a left turn, and I'm a mile from home. We're almost there. And something had spilled a load of what looked like tar or something on the road, and we had to drive across it in order for me to make the turn. Remember, I have driven 300 plus miles already today. I'm 1 mile from home, and here's this crap on the road that I know that if I drive over is going to get splashed all up underneath my car. And there's nothing else I can do except drive through it. And we got close to it. And it wasn't tar. It looked like mud. So I drove through it. I pull into my driveway at home. I get out of my car, and I'm hit with the smell of the inside of a septic tank. And I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe they mowed over some doggy stuff because they just mowed the grass today. Anyway, Mike got in his car and went home. I'm there with the smell. And I realized that wasn't mud, Michael. That was not mud that I drove through. That, my friend, was septic tank waste that had spilled out of one of these trucks that clean out septic tanks all over the road, and everybody that drove through it, the hundreds and hundreds of cars, went home with a car that smelled like the inside of a sewer. So here I was, 4:30 in the morning, get up, do my thing on the morning coffee, drive to Tampa, have a lunch, do all this stuff, need to get ready for my live stream tonight. And what do I have to do for a half an hour? I have to be out there with a hose, hosing all of that sewage out from under my car. And I'm saying to myself, I'm never going anywhere again. I'm just not. I'm going to go to Sam's Club and back. And because it's an obstacle course out there. It's just an obstacle course. I decided I can't get aggravated about that. And the appropriate saying that came into my mind was, shit happens. And shit happened to me today, and I had to wash it all off. So that was that was my adventure. And now I'm sitting here. I'm the furthest thing from tired or sleepy. I probably, like I normally do after these live streams, is even if they end at 10 o'clock, I usually go out on my porch, light up a cigar, and watch the entire thing, and then go to bed at midnight. And the way I feel right now, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'll let you know in the morning when I'm out there early doing my morning coffee. So this has indeed become a full-time job for me. Indeed. I must be having a good time because I keep doing it. I keep doing it. So that's Michael, and we had a good time today. We had a great time. Grandma Preppers here, how you doing? Good to see you. And Jerry Vajtush. And if I have one of these in Orlando, Jerry, I expect you to come down. You're not that far from Orlando. I think you're up around Jacksonville. Lori Weitzel's here. Hi. Good to see you. Mark C., thanks again for the gifting the private memberships. Sandy Blythe, I don't know if I said, unretired carnivore, met, yes. How you doing? That's Scott, met him today. He's from Sebring. Good to see you, man. It was great to meet you. Great to meet you, and I know that if we have one in Orlando, you'll be there. But it was great. It is so great. We never meet people that we can identify with like other carnivores. There are so few of them out there, which is what makes it, which is so amazing when you think about it, that the answer, the solution to the health problems, to the addictions, to people poisoning themselves, to the ridiculous medical costs. And are you telling me that only a small handful of people have actually been able to succeed on it and prosper? Man, all that stuff against us, all that propaganda, all that money and corruption, they're winning. They're winning. And we need to, we have an opportunity now. It is starting to get into the national spotlight. And there basically is something we can do. It may not work. It may not solve the problem. But it's a hell of a more optimistic thing than what we've been doing lately, which is just trying to convince people we're not crazy. So, no politics. Just telling you, we do have a path at this point, a political answer to maybe helping us get this message out at much, much higher levels than just me sitting here talking to 110 people on a live stream. 110 enlightened people, smart people, but not solving the problems, the health problems for the tens of millions of people that are suffering because they don't know. I am Jazzy Jude. Thank you. Good evening to you too. And who else? And I'll start answering questions here in a minute. I have gotten myself all the way up to 8 p.m. in the chat. All these chats that I read you so far were people who were in there chatting before I went live at 8 p.m. Mark Davis is here. Hiya, Mark. How you doing, buddy? Thanks for coming in. And Scott says hi to me again. Valerie Thompson is here. Louis L. or Lewis L. from New York City. Forget about it. I think I said hi. And who's this? Polish Mike. Hey, a lot of mics here tonight, including a Polish one. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming in. And I'm trying to see if I have said hi to most of the early. Wow. Is that, I got to get close for this one. Maciel. To get my other glasses out here. Ordonez. Welcome from Utah. Don Lee. Okay, that's easier to say. Good to see you. And we have Tina Popus here. How you doing, Tina? Mark Davis. Question. I think they are trying to lower their cost by hoping all of you would eat bread and salad. How much? Oh, Mark. That is their business plan. That's their plan. That's the plan of any buffet where they have shrimp and crab's legs or anything, is to get you to the salad bar first so you fill up. They want you to be full, and they have pasta salads and all kinds of filling stuff to make sure that you're not going to eat too much of the real expensive stuff. We're probably the least profitable bunch of customers that they ever had. We ate only the most expensive stuff. And I saw somebody had asked what did they have? They had picanha, they had ribeye, they had filet mignon, they had garlic sirloin, bacon wrapped chicken, they had salmon. And I didn't get. There was so much that I didn't get. They had just a ton of different meats, and they were all cooked perfectly and salted perfectly. They do an excellent job, and it's all you care to eat. The good news about meat, like I said, is you can only eat so much. If that was all you can eat spaghetti and meatballs, people would have to be carried out of there on an ambulance, whereas none of us ate enough to get sick or feel uncomfortable. At least I didn't. Because when you eat the right foods, the satiety signals are strong. And you don't have to think about it's time to stop. You know it. It's, oh, God, I can't eat another bite. And I got to that point today. And I still am not hungry and don't want to eat anymore. I'll eat bacon and eggs tomorrow around 11 in the morning. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Mark. That's the business plan. Feed them up, fill them up full of bread. That's why a lot of restaurants will encourage you to eat the breadsticks and from the bread basket that's on the table the minute you arrive, because especially if it's an all you can eat, the more bread you eat, the less of the stuff, the costly stuff you're going to eat. And okay, I got down to Mark C's gift of the memberships, and I have a question here. Boxside, hey all. I've done a lot of talking today, guys. Non-stop. And my voice goes out. I've always had that problem, especially if I talk loud. It's okay when I just talk like this, when I got a microphone in front of me and I don't have to. But talking in that loud car today, trying to talk above the road noise and everything else, it's hard on my vocal cords anyway. And there's nothing wrong with my vocal cords. I've always been that way ever since I was a kid. Question, hey all, approximately how many weeks did it take people to feel fully carnivore adapted with all cravings gone? It's not a matter of weeks. You can lose, at least in my experience, and that's the only experience I can speak to with authority. I mean, I heard things from other people, how accurate they were, but for me, I do know that after about 30 days, 3 weeks to 30 days, I probably wasn't fully fat adapted, but I was not coming from a world of being a sugar burner exclusively anyway. I had been on keto and low carb most of my life. Low carb first, then keto for a few years. Problem, I was still an addict. I was still trying to figure out how to best spend my carbohydrate allotment every day so I could get the maximum amount of addictive-like foods and with no guilt, knowing I've kept the actual carb count below 20 grams. So I was trying to figure out how to make all those pizza crusts and anything. It wasn't until I was trying to do that and realized it hadn't gotten rid of any of my addictions that I finally figured I'm approaching this all wrong. As long as I keep being on keto and trying to ration these carbs so I can continue to eat those foods that I'm trying to quit, I'll never quit them. And that'll only lead me back to wanting the real stuff, and then you fall off the wagon, and then you binge, and then a couple months later you put all the weight back on. That's a pattern. We've all been there. Anybody that's 60, 70 years old and still dieting can tell you this is a story of their life. Tried everything. Usually done harm to themselves. The cravings were about 90% gone because I was following my own discovery of always eating a meal when you got a craving. And eat to satiety. Eat like we did today. We all ate to satiety. And if it took a pound of meat to get to satiety, I don't care if you just had a pound of meat 3 hours ago, eat another pound of meat. Don't let yourself get hungry. And I had to keep that up for about a month. And then I found that naturally, I just didn't want that much food anymore. So I stopped eating all that food, but the cravings had been gone. And I've explained this many times, and I think I may need to come up with a dedicated video just to talk about why that really happens. And there's an absolute reason why it's usually 3 weeks to 30 days. Now, at the same time, you're not eating sugar, so your metabolism has a chance to heal, and your body has a chance to reawaken the fat-burning pathways in your cells, in your mitochondria. And it all comes together, generally, for most people who aren't too metabolically gone in a month or so. But it can take 2 months. Some people can take 3 months. Some people, it may never happen. They're just broken after a lifetime of excess sugar. They're diabetics. You know, you can do a lot of damage to yourself. Slow poison over a lot of years. But for me, after about 30 days, but I was still susceptible to a craving if I really let myself get hungry. And I'd say after about 6 months, if I look back, and you don't see a big flashing neon sign in front of you. You don't get cravings anymore now, Mitch. You don't, you're living your life, you're doing your thing, and you may not even notice that those cravings have completely disappeared. But I would say about 6 months until I no longer had even a thought of those foods. And the longer I went since that, and I'm now well over 2 years, the further back those cravings are being buried in my head, and the less likely I am. But I still know that, like any addict, abstinence is, I don't want to test it. I don't want to be that alcoholic that's been sober for 10 years and says, I guess I can have a drink now. One drink and it's back to square one. I don't want to do that. And the reason I don't want to do it is I don't see anything in those foods anymore that is attractive to me or calling me, eat me, eat me. I don't think. I don't want them. So why would I go eat blueberries now, for example, if I don't want blueberries? And risk waking up an addiction. They're like sleeping beasts. So I hope that answers your question, Baksad, and that's about the best I can do is tell you what happened to me. I see Sherry Morgan. Thank you, Sherry. How you doing? Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Happy you had a great dental outcome. Yeah, I have to tell you about that. You have a great dentist to wait until you're in pain. What else did they say? I do have a great dentist. He's a young guy. He bought the dental practice 12 years ago. Well, he's not as young as he was. When he first bought the dental practice, I looked at this kid, and all I could think of was Doogie Howser, MD. Remember Doogie Howser? Now, his name is Brian. Now he's a thin, good-looking guy, all-American looking, got the wavy black hair, and he's just a genuinely nice guy. Always friendly as hell. He knew Stan, and he knows I was one of Stan's best friends. And he still treats me with tremendous respect and always very friendly to me. And he always listens to me. And he knows I know more than the average bear about health and physiology. We talk about that sometimes. We talked about that today. I was trying to explain, because we were talking about systemic inflammation, and I'd asked the hygienist, "Do you know what a CRP is?" She wasn't. She had heard about it. She didn't really know what it meant. And he was there, and he knew exactly what I was talking about. And I told him that my CRP is very low. I said, I don't think I'm getting any real inflammation from this, but I do. I can feel it up at the root when I press. I feel something that I don't feel when this. It's not pain. It's just sensitivity to the touch itself. And he said, and he explained to me why that was. And he examined me, and he didn't see any kind of indications of any infection or inflammation. And we talked about the bone loss, and he said, well, you haven't, the tooth is in there solid. The metal post is in there solid. It's not loose. If you get further bone loss down the road, it'll get loose. And we're talking about something that would cost me $5,000 to do. And he basically assured me I didn't need it then. I said, well, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, if it had to be done, I'd do it. But what I'd rather do is, I think that perhaps this diet that I'm on and the way I eat my lifestyle may have stopped the bone loss. So we decided it's nothing imminent. It's not hurting me. It's not creating any system-wide inflammation that could hurt me. To wait. Do an x-ray next time I come in 4 months. Compare it to the x-ray he did last June. And we'll see if it looks like any bone loss is progressing. And just keep an eye on it. When it gets to the point where it needs to come out, we'll take it out. It'll be a hell of a lot easier to get out then. He said, the way these posts are designed, the surface where the screw thing is has pits put in it, and when they get screwed in there, they lock themselves in. They're not going anywhere. He says sometimes just to get them out, he's got to actually cut the bone down around them to get this. But if you've had the bone loss that enough to make it a little loose, he said he can probably get it out of it. But he's that kind of a guy. He's not going to try to sell me something I don't need at the time. And I admire him for that. For that reason, I wouldn't dream of going to a different dentist. I have tremendous respect for him, even if I have to drive an hour like I did and back an hour to get to his office. So that's what I do. And Sherry, it was great. I was concerned about that because, you more than anybody will know what an ordeal it is that you have to go through to get this kind of work done. You got to do this step. You got to wait months. They do the next step. You wait months. It is a monumental hassle. And I remember going through getting these two put in. And I have great sympathy for what you're going through. And I think it shows, for somebody that's as happy as you seem to be, I think you handle it very well. And congratulations on that. At any rate, thank you so much for this super chat, Sherry. I appreciate it. And love that, one of these days, maybe we could have a meetup out in California. I don't know. Be a hell of a long trip. Papa Carnivore is here. Hiya, Peter. Good to see you. We need to fight back. And that's I'm not at the bottom of the chat on this side here. So let me hunt for some questions. I was thinking about showing you some of that footage that I shot at the meetup, but by the time I got done cleaning that crap off my car, I never got a chance to actually get it out of the camera and download it to the computer yet. So I haven't even looked at it. I went in there with a bag that had like 6 cameras in it. I mean, I have all my cameras in a carry tote that gotta weigh 20 pounds, and It's got everything in there that I need, and it's just so easy. I know if I go somewhere and I think I might need to film something, I've got every kind of camera. I've got the 360 cameras. I've got the gimbal cameras that follow motion. I've got GoPros. So I lugged that thing in there today and ended up really only using one camera and my cell phone. And it's amazing how a cell phone actually acts as all the camera you might need in any given situation. It's fabulous. It's fabulous. Steve Rogers. Oh, Steve, you're in Atlanta. Oh my God, Steve Rogers. Let me tell you the story. Steve's the guy that flew in from Kansas, right? Kansas City. And yeah, man, I'm glad you're here, man. I already kind of half apologized to Michael for how impatient I got on that way home with these drivers. I mean, you could see that the more we got into it, the more unhappy I got. And I don't know if you heard the story about what that shit we drove through was, but it was literally and figuratively shit. It must have come from a leaking septic tank truck or something. When I got home, I told you something smells funny. Well, it was my car. So I had to spend a half an hour hosing that all out from underneath it and hosing it off the driveway. So literally, that's how my less than relaxing drive worked out. But it was great. It was great getting to meet you today, man. And I really enjoyed it. And what happened was Steve is a retired airline mechanic from Delta. And when you retire from an airline, one of the perks you get is you get to fly everywhere for free, but you have to fly standby. Well, he got a flight in, and he almost didn't make it because he was in Atlanta, and they almost didn't have room for him in this plane. See, so he did make it in, but then when he tried to confirm a seat for himself to go home, they didn't have one. But he found out that if he flew out of Melbourne, there was no problem. There was plenty of seats. There's a lot of flights out of Melbourne. Has a nice little airport, but it's not something people think of. They always think of, well, I'm going to go to Orlando to the airport. So he asked me if he could kind of get a ride back to Melbourne with me. And I said, absolutely, absolutely. And even better, I mean, the airport's only 2-3 miles from my house. It would have been no sweat to drop him at the airport. But Michael Sr., who rode over with me, came and met me at my house this morning, and his car was here. And it just so happens that on his way home from my house, he drives right past the Melbourne airport. So we all got back to my house, and my two passengers got into Michael's car, and off they went, leaving me to hose shit off of my car. You can't make this stuff up, folks. I mean, you just can't. This is Murphy's Law in action. Anything that can go wrong will. So I had two passengers on the way back, and believe it or not, I've had my SUV for 2 full years. It'll be 2 years in October, which is next month. No one in those 2 years, not a soul, has ever ridden in the back seat. And very, very, very rarely has anybody even ridden in the front seat. I think my son rode up there a couple times when we were going to lunch. For some reason, we took my car. I might have met him at his house, let's say, and we went off to a restaurant. So Steve got to ride my back seat the first time. Inaugurated it. Found out the air conditioning works back there and everything. It was a beautiful thing. And now Steve tells me that he is in Atlanta. Where was that? Where was that? Hey, Mitch, I'm sitting in Atlanta waiting for my Kansas City flight returning from our TPA meetup. Yeah. Well, ain't cell phones grand that you can be sitting there in the Atlanta airport watching me talking about you. This is great. And it was an absolute pleasure, man, meeting you today. An absolute pleasure. And now I know you can fly anywhere. I expect to see you again. But that's great. And I hope you had a good time. I think you did. I hope you had a great time. And I didn't make you too nervous on the drive home, getting aggravated. You know how us old people drive? It's not pretty. So I also see Sherry Morgan had a question. Dr. Kiltz is spot on with the fat and hormones. Super high fat makes me fertile myrtle. Oh, that's just what you need. Anyone show up pregnant over 50? You legit never know, yeah. I think, well, I don't think you can count Nisha Burry. She's much younger than that. But Kiltz will tell you that with all the fertility treatments, that Carnivore probably is one of the greatest proponents of this healthy eating as the best way to reverse any fertility problems. Don't lower cholesterol. Let it do what it's want. Just eat the right food. Stop poisoning your cholesterol. And it was amazing that at the meetup there, the subject of high cholesterol came up because it does concern everybody. And it is one of the main deterrents for people to do carnivore or even low carb. Because more often than not, in a healthy person, as they get healthier, their cholesterol is going to go up, but their HDL goes up, their triglycerides come down. They basically become a lean mass hyperresponder or a near lean mass hyperresponder. And these people have perfectly clean, plaque-free and calcium-free arteries, and yet their cholesterol numbers, they should be dead according to everybody. They should be dead. And yet, somehow magically, they're not. Well, if you're a scientist and you're trying to prove causality, that should be universal. That should be universal. I could prove universally that if I gave you arsenic in 10 times the lethal quantity it takes to kill somebody, I can tell you pretty assuredly that virtually everybody that consumed that dose of arsenic would die. And it wouldn't be a stretch to say scientifically that that much arsenic will cause death. It'll cause death. And in order to say that, it has to be universal. You can't have a whole group of people come in the room and say, I bet you that won't kill me, and then have a group of people, call them whatever you want, call them lean mass hyperresponders, who gobble down 10 times the lethal dose of arsenic and then go off and play around the golf. And it doesn't even make them sick, let alone kill them. So if you're the scientist who has actually decreed and written a study and had it published that says a certain amount of arsenic causes death, your study is now bullshit because there's an exception. So here we are, we're carnivores, low carb, not even have to be a carnivore, you just have to be really low carb where you're in ketosis a certain amount of time. And we come along and the whole world is telling us that any total cholesterol above 200 is going to cause you to have plaque in your arteries and give you heart disease. And here we have people in their 50s and 60s with total cholesterols of 500, 600, 1,000, 1,500. And they have no plaque and no cholesterol and no calcium in their arteries. None. Zero. And all the studies say that cholesterol causes this. Well, it can't be true. One exception to any causality study negates that study. That's science. We don't have science. We have propaganda is what we have. We have drug manufacturers designing these so-called studies, funding them, engineering them, and interpreting the results to make their drug look necessary. That's corruption, and it should be criminal. But it's not science. It's far from science. And here we come right now. We've gotten the initial results on the lean mass hyperresponder study and all of these exceptions that have incredibly high LDL, but they have high HDL, they have low triglycerides, they have a low BMI, which turns out to be a very important factor in whether cholesterol is going to be good or bad for you. And the lower your BMI is, the more likely it is that you're going to be healthier with higher cholesterol than not. So it turns out it's just not as simple as what old Ansel Keys thought when he demonized cholesterol 70 years ago, back in the 50s, and went about to prove how smart he was and ended up killing off half the human race in the process. And we're still doing it today because all this business grew up around it. And with all this business, these people aren't going to give up. They're not going to give up their rich lives and their big houses and boats and yachts. No, they're going to fight you tooth and nail and hang on to the wives' tales that this is all built on. We all know that. But yet today, I talked to some people who said that's the one thing that has them concerned. And of course, the doctors don't make it easy on them. And they say, I know what my doctor's going to say, and I have to decide how I'm going to deal with that. Well, it's easy. It's easy to deal with. Just tell your doctor, listen, doc, I don't agree with that. I mean, I've heard your opinion, but I've heard many other opinions from people that are equally, they're doctors, scientists, and I can get you 3 or 4 legitimate studies published in prestigious journals. Would you like to read them? Oh, and while I'm at it, doc, while I'm getting you studies that show why my high cholesterol is actually healthy and all my other markers are perfect, and I'm in better health than just about any other patient my age that you have taking your advice, while we're at it, doc, and while I'm giving you all of these studies for you to peruse, can you go ask your nurse out there to knock me off a few copies of the studies that you're relying on that say I should be on a statin? Would you do that for me, please? Because I just want to be informed. They won't do that. They won't do that. And if they did, you just show us which studies they are. All of them have been debunked by the likes of Gary Taubes and Nina Teicholz and David Diamond and all of these guys, brilliant minds, that have shown you exactly how they manipulated and phonied up the results so that they could come up with a misleading statistic that allows them to sell their drugs. It's criminal. And the more we learn, and the more examples we see that somehow miraculously don't keel over from heart attacks with cholesterols over 500, actually have glowing health, no pain and disease, that are contrary to what the studies say is causal. And remember, if you find one exception, one living human being that didn't die or have heart disease or has no discernible heart disease, when your study says that this causes that, then it would have had to have caused that in this particular individual, and it didn't. Your theory and your findings are wrong, and you've got to throw them out and start over. You missed something. You missed a confounder. You missed another variable. You missed something that wasn't uniform across the two different groups you were testing. And that's why these studies are not worth the paper they're written on. They're all marketing pieces. They're all propaganda. They make great headlines on the news, and that's where we hear them. Brought to you by the dancing fat people selling Ozempic, and around it goes. Around it goes. Mark Davis, thank you, my friend. Didn't I see you mix crab into your famous omelet? You did, Mark. I love that crab meat. It's fabulously expensive. I buy a can, I think it's like 20 something bucks for a pound of it at Sam's Club. I found canned crab for $30 at Walmart. I'm thinking about trying it with my eggs and just stuffing my face for some of them. Yeah, thanks a lot, Mark. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. And thank you, because I'm probably now going to take some of that money and go buy crab meat with it, because you've planted that idea in my head. I love that stuff. When I had my restaurant, we were a seafood grouper restaurant, and we had a recipe, and my cooks made the greatest crab cakes. They weren't carnivore. They had a bunch of other stuff in them, but they were fabulous. Those crab cakes were great. They were great. I wonder, I don't know if I've got this picture handy, but let me see. If not, I'll dig it out for next time. But do I have it here? Where is it? No, I don't. I don't have it in that folder. That was one of the first things I ate in the restaurant when we finally got it built and finally got it open. And I still had my little folding table using as a temporary desk in the dining room with my computer set up on it. We had the kitchen all set up. We were going through some trial runs. We had some friends in. We had a soft opening where we had a bunch of friends in, and we put the kitchen through its paces. And the first thing they cooked for me was a crab cake, and they put it on top of linguine, and they poured a beurre blanc sauce, lemon cream sauce, and it was one of the best things I'd ever eaten in my life. And I've always loved crab meat. The crab meat I got at Sam's Club was not as good as some of the really good crab meat I've had. And if they have canned crab meat at Walmart, maybe I'll go try some of that. But it's a real treat. And I could take an omelet and put four ounces or more of that on the omelet and just fold it over. And that's heaven for me. I love that stuff. And it's completely carnivore. So I'm not mad at you for bringing that up, Mark. Thank you for reminding me of something that I really enjoy and haven't eaten in a while. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the super chat, certainly. Thank you, my friend. Let me see if I can figure out how to get rid of it now. There it is. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I need to try and sleuth out some of the questions here. And Jerry Vodstas says, what was your favorite cut of meat? At the restaurant today, I would have to say that there's two things that just flipped me out. The prime ribeye was just wonderful. It's cooked just right, just the right amount of salt. But I got my hands on a beef rib, bone and all. Oh man, was that good. I should have snuck in the kitchen to find out how they actually cooked those. It was one of the best beef ribs I've ever had. It was so good. So those were my two favorite things. Really enjoyed both of them. And the next question we have here from Jerry. Again, would you consider a weekend meetup for those who work Monday through Friday? The problem with the week, it doesn't matter to me. I do, it's the place. The reason that we could do that there was the place is empty on a Tuesday. They have a website. They give out coupons. The place was all the people that came in early to that place that weren't with our group were little old ladies. It was almost like the early bird special crowd at the Cracker Barrel. I mean, you should have seen them. They all looked like they came out of the same mold. They were all 5 foot tall, 5'2". None of them were obese, but none of them were thin. They were plump. They were all about the same age. They looked to be in the 80-year-old range, although I'm sure some of them were younger. And there must have been 10 or 15 of them walked through the door. And we commented on it. Why do they all look alike? On a weekend, they raise their prices. It's more expensive. They get a lot more people going in. And that might be hard to find a place like that. Now, if we wanted to just have a meetup at a regular, like a barbecue joint or something, and just buy pounds of meat, pulled pork, brisket, we would be getting the typical barbecue rubs and seasonings, and you are going to get a few carbs. But I do that with my son once in a while, and it doesn't hurt. But I'll have to explore that, Jerry, and see if because I know that there's a couple of people who said they'd love to attend, but they have to work. And I forget sometimes that not everybody is old as dirt like me. And some people still actually have to work. I still actually have to work too. I just don't have to punch a clock, and I work 24/7, 7 days a week, all the time. So it doesn't matter what day of the week it is for me. Okay, let's see what the next question might be, if I have any more. If you do have something you want to ask me, QQQ in the chat. Linda G. It's a good question, Linda. Is Hurricane Helene a danger for me? I wouldn't say it'll be an inconvenience. If it goes the track where it's going, my daughter lives over on the west coast of Florida, but she's inland quite a ways from the actual Gulf and up in Pasco County. So storm surge or anything like that, but they'll be getting some big wind. They've got a pretty substantial house, and they've weathered worse than this. But it's an inconvenience for everybody. For me, they're predicting periods of winds, maybe up to 50 miles an hour. That's not a problem. We've had much worse than that. And a fair amount of rain. And I live in a place that where my house is. It's never flooded, but some other areas in our community have flooded terribly. I'm like on the mountain in this place, and which is good. So I don't worry about it. I don't worry about it. And I've got my backup. I've got all my backup power stuff in place, which is great. I've got the two. I've got the two battery backup supplies here, which I can run refrigerator or my freezer and my computer system and lights and fans, and then I also have a 2,000 watt gas generator that'll charge each one of these up in about an hour. I can get over a day's worth of power for my appliances that I need to power from one of those things, and that's why I ended up buying a second one. It just makes me feel a lot more secure knowing that I have a way to keep the food that I have stored away good. I also, and I think I have it on my website. Let me see. I think I do. I think I have it on this page here, which gives me a great opportunity to plug my Amazon links to all the gadgets that I use, and you guys are going to have to put up with this, and in return for putting up with me talking for a minute about things that actually help me make a living, I don't run those annoying mid-roll ads on any of my videos for you so that you can watch them uninterrupted. I think it's a fair trade-off. I did put a couple new things. These thermometers, which I have in use, I forgot to put them. And I also put this little meat slicer that I have on there, which I kind of debuted in that pork belly video where I sliced it. And it's not a commercial slicer, but for home use it works great. And you can slice up anything with it. And for pork belly, to get nice even-sized pieces so they cook, it turned out that's one of the things that helped make it work. But where is, here it is right here. This thing, it's a portable camping stove that runs on either butane or propane. And the butane fuel just snaps into it. The propane, it has an adapter. But I bought one of these, and it just sits in my kitchen cabinet. And if all else fails and all the electricity's off, I have a barbecue grill outside that has a gas tank. But if I just want to cook an omelet in a pan or something, or fry up a steak, I can cook everything on this. I've got half a dozen spare cans of this butane. So between my little portable generators, as long as my house doesn't blow away, I'm pretty well set. So I've got that on my page, along with all kinds of other stuff. Even the t-shirt that I'm wearing right now that says, every day thousands of innocent plants are killed by vegetarians. Eat bacon. I don't make this t-shirt, but everybody, when I did wear it one other time, I got people said, can you put a link to that up there for us? All that stuff is on this page. And if you buy something on this page, you know that you don't pay extra for it, and they pay me a small commission, and it does add up. And all the stuff I use is on here. And stuff that I used to use and don't use anymore, but the vitamins I take, the iodine, the different salts that I use, the ghee, the pork rind crumbs, smoked salt, the salmon and anchovies, the canned salmon and anchovies, even that EcoFlow thing over there and the solar panel that went with it to charge it up, the smoker, my fancy little eat like a caveman plate and knife, the splatter screen, the sous vide stuff, meat grinder, all the stuff that you see me cook with in my videos that I use on a regular basis, the different wireless thermometer, salt shaker, and my favorite thing, the bacon grease store, Instant Pot, all this stuff, including my vacuum sealer, but all this stuff is on there. And if you want, if you get an inkling or you think you might want some of this stuff, I really appreciate when you buy it through my links. It helps me. YouTube is not helping us in our community. If you take a look, this is troubling. I always watch, when I look at videos, I look at everybody's videos and I look at the view counts and I see everybody's, some people still get lots of views because they're huge. They got hundreds of thousands of subscribers. But when you look at the average keto or carnivore YouTuber, the smaller ones, people around my size, you'll notice that every month we get fewer and fewer views. And it's not just me, it's across the board. I look at the views that well, even Ken Berry on his live streams used to always sit at 4,000 plus views. I looked the other night, he was at 2,000 something. Sean Baker, he has a Sean Baker podcast where he does interviews. Gets 1,000, 1,500 maybe, and then if it stays there a while, it might get up to 2,000, 2,500. These are interviews from important people. I think that our whole space and our whole sector is being considered as misinformation by YouTube, and they've told us as much. And it makes it harder and harder for those of us that are trying to make this a full-time job. So that's why I have the Amazon stuff. So appreciate the help. You guys are great. So many of you do it, and it helps me keep going. That's one sure way to get rid of me if you want to. Don't use any of that stuff. I couldn't possibly make a living at this anymore. I would need to do something else. Where was I? I was answering questions. Question: is the Hurricane Helene a danger for you? I'm not worried about it. We get these things. I hate to say it because of this hurricane season, to those doomsayers, has been a huge disappointment up to this point. I mean, they were predicting by this point that we would have been completely wiped out by hurricanes in this country, and for some reason they weren't developing. So this is the first one since Bonnie way back in the beginning that, and usually we're already past the peak. So we went up that whole slope of increased hurricane activity traditionally, and nothing happened. So we're due for one or two, a good one. And it's what it's like. It's like being a bowling pin in a bowling alley when you live in Florida. These things get thrown from way far away, and you got to watch them as they come toward you and curve this way and curve that way, never knowing where they're going to really hit. And they have gotten better at predicting. The modeling has gotten a lot better, and they usually get pretty close. Edward McGowan says, hey from Orlando, like last week live, when someone was having member link issues, I'm experiencing that problem. I've tried 3 different platforms, same problem. I don't know why that is. You talking about to join the private community? There's a button that says join. It should take you right to a page where you can do it. I think where most people have problems is they don't have a payment method set up. And I think it's Google, so I think you have to have a Google wallet or something like that. And it takes a fiddling to get it to go right the first time. So if you can be more explicit about where you're running into the problem or what's happening, then maybe I might recognize it. Mitch will be far enough away with little concern, says Linda G. Yeah, we're going to get some weather, though. It's going to be, I mean, even though the cone looks like it stays offshore in Florida, that storm is going to cover the whole entire state, the actual storm itself. The cone is only where the odds of the eye going. But you get something 100 miles out in the Gulf, and Tampa Bay can get storm surge that floods tremendously and winds of 100 miles an hour. in some of those storms, even though that cone, as it narrows, the closer we get, further we go down the road, of course, that cone, the uncertainty becomes less and less and less, so the cone gets narrower. But that cone is not like a limit of the effects of the storm. Of course, it always feels better when that cone doesn't go over the top of where you live. And I've been there a couple times, too. There's another question. Have you tried the Brazilian steakhouse called Fogo de Chao? No, I haven't. So good. We got one here in Jacksonville. Come on up. Well, Jerry, maybe we'll get you to do the legwork on a meetup up there. There's a number of different chains of these things, and I know that this Terra Gaucha has them all over the place. When you look at their website, they got maps. They're all over the East Coast. And Bart Simpson, hey Bart, says, does Mitch eat alligator? I have tasted alligator, and it's good. It's good. I like it. But I don't eat it. I don't go out of my way to get it. A lot of people say it tastes like chicken. It's not something that I see a lot. There's a lot of meat from a lot of different animals that's good. Sherry Morgan, thank you, Sherry. Final verdict. Which is the best way to cook the pork belly? Well, I haven't tried enough different ways. I have a lot of people, Sherry, that are urging me to sous vide it first. And anything that pre-cooks it before you fry it in a pan, because you can do, when you got raw meat, that's one thing. That's why we cure meat. It does break down some of the stuff in the meat. It does change the meat when you either cure it or cook it. When I tried to just cook the raw pork belly into cubes, it didn't come out real good. When I fried it in a pan, uncooked, it was edible, but when I put that piece that I baked in, that put in a 250-degree oven and brought it up to 160 degrees, let it cool in the refrigerator overnight, and then sliced a 1/4-inch slice and fried it in a pan like bacon. When you put that in your mouth, that fat turns to liquid. You don't even chew it. It just disintegrates in your mouth, becomes a liquid, and the flavor is fabulous. It's as good as bacon, and with no sugar. So I do have 2 chunks of that cooked stuff left. And because I knew that I wasn't going to be making another pork belly video for at least a week, I vacuum sealed them and put them in the freezer. So they're good now as long as I want to keep them. I'll take one out in a day or two, and I want to do an experiment with that. I want to take my meat slicer out, and I want to cut about a 1/2-inch thick slice and then lay it down on the cutting board and cut it into cubes. And I know they'll be relatively the same in size because they'll start with a uniform thickness. And I want to take half of that piece, it'd be quite a bit, it'd be a good pound or more, and cube it up and fry all them I'm going to try 2 different ways. I'm going to try them in the air fryer, and I'm going to just try them in a frying pan. And just toss them in the frying pan. Probably come out about the same, I would imagine. But the difference is, in the frying pan, they will fry in their own grease. In an air fryer, the grease will render out of them and go through to the tray underneath. They may taste a lot better frying them in their own fat without actually having the fat drain off. So we'll experiment. And then the next time I'll find the best of how to finish, at least my taste, how to finish an oven-cooked pork belly. I've given up on the idea of just doing it raw. And you don't have to. It's no big deal. You throw it in the oven. You don't even have to cover it up. Just throw it in the oven 250 degrees until, put the thermometer in there. And when it gets to 160, 155, I took it out of 155 because they always continue to cook a little bit after you take them out of the oven. And cut it, in a couple pieces and just throw them in the freezer. And then or cut them up into what you think is going to be enough for an individual serving. Vacuum seal them in those serving size, whether it's a pound or a half a pound or whatever. And then as you want to eat it, you just take one of those bags out of the freezer, cut it open, throw it in a frying pan, or thaw it out, throw it in a frying pan or an air fryer and cook it up. And from 1 4 or 5 pound belly, you're going to get yourself 4 or 5 meals. And I've still got a lot of experimenting, but I was very encouraged by the way that cooked stuff came out, just fried in a pan like bacon. And if that's the best I can do, I'd be tickled to death with that. But it's nice to have a prepackaged, pre-portioned meal of some size that's not going to spoil. It's not time sensitive. It's sitting in a vacuum sealed bag in a freezer. And all you got to do is take it out the day before, throw it in the fridge. It'll defrost perfectly well in the fridge. When you're ready to eat it, you may want to make eggs and pork belly cubes instead of eggs and bacon. You just take the bag, cut it open, throw it in an air fryer or a frying pan, and bingo, you got a meal. And I want to come up with a couple of things that may become staples and may become part of my normal daily repertoire of the things that I eat, which, sad to say, not sad to say, happy to say, is usually pretty limited. It's usually bacon, eggs, and some burger, and an alternate hamburger, ground beef, and a steak. So, hope that answers your question, Sherry. I thank you again for that super chat. Appreciate it. Papa Carnivore. Finished dinner, is feeling great now. Great to hear, Peter. Great to hear. All right, let me go back to the questions here and let's see. I think I've already answered. Carnivorous Meat Eater says, do you think the hurricane going to stay east of you? No, it's going to stay west of us, where I am. East of me is the Atlantic Ocean, and west of me is the Gulf of Mexico. So we're going to be east of the storm. Yes, that's true. We're going to be on the east side of the storm. And they seem to be narrowing the track down. And unfortunately, the other thing they're narrowing down is that it's going to be a very big storm. They're talking Cat 4, Cat 3 or 4. I don't know if you remember it. I don't remember the name of the storm, but the people up in the Panhandle got hit by a devastating storm a few years ago. And they seem to get hit an awful lot up there. And they get tremendous flooding and damage. And they're still rebuilding. They're still rebuilding from storms from years ago and before they get a chance to build. And this is not new. This isn't just recent development. What a lot of people don't realize is that it was a hurricane that actually cut Tampa Bay itself in the 1800s. Where Tampa Bay goes in, that wasn't a bay. It was a monster hurricane. You remember Hurricane Andrew? How many years ago was that? And what else kills me is they always talk about the record temperature. It's going to be, trying to convince you that we panic, crisis, global warming, you need to do this. You need to, worry about that. And they come out and they just say, we've broken a record that was set in 1898. Well, so what's new? If it was this hot in 1898 and it's this hot again now, how can you say we're setting new ground when we were in the same place in 1898 and maybe some of these cycles are 100-year cycles? And we've discovered what those cycles are. And they involve things besides global warming. They involve the position of the sun and the earth and the tilt and angle and the sunspots and solar maximum and solar minimum, and all these things come and go in confluence. And sometimes some of the things that make the weather hotter, maybe of the 4 different factors that might make it hotter, they all come together every 100 years and all happen at the same time. So the earth gets super hot. And then somebody with an agenda who wants to sell you something seizes on that as an opportunity for alarmism and take power away from you and give it to some globalist James Bond villain. This shit is happening. So don't tell me we've set new records if the record we broke was set 120 years ago. It just doesn't make sense. Why don't people think and have some common sense these days? It's crazy. There are those that say, and very convincingly so, that yes, man-made climate change has added carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. I don't know if you've ever heard this one. Let me thank Mark Davis for this. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Thank you very much, my friend. I wonder if you bake the bacon to 260 degrees, then let it cool in the fridge. Next day, fry it. Like pork belly, do you think it will also melt in your mouth? I don't know, but the bacon is already cured, Mark. And bacon fat usually does kind of melt in your mouth when you eat it. When you start chewing bacon, generally, if you've cooked it adequately, the bacon fat is tremendously flavorful. One of my favorite parts of the bacon. Yet, when I eat a ribeye, the fat is not my favorite part. But for some reason, when you get pork fat cooked just right, I don't think this. I think that once you've cured a meat, I don't think that you have to cook it first. I think that'd be just too many steps. Be interesting though, and I can tell you, maybe I'll try an experiment based on what you just said. Next time I cook up a pork belly in the oven, I'll throw some bacon in with it and see if it makes it any better when I fry them both up together. So that's an idea. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate the super chat. Very nice of you. We were answering questions. Last one was, do I think the hurricane going to stay east of you? We talked about that. And the next question was, back to the favorite cut of meat again. Weekend meetup going round and round. Have you tried the Brazilian Steakhouse up there? Here we go. David, what do you think? A podcast today that was disappointing. She is a small farmer with a 150 head. Regulations coming out from Department of Agriculture put a lot of small farms out of business. What do I think? Yeah, I think that the entire USDA at the top levels, maybe not the rank and file, and so many of these government agencies are part of the problem. They are getting their funding and payoffs and lobbied by the representatives of the company who don't want to see farmers survive. If anybody should be getting subsidies, it's not the tobacco companies. They still get subsidies. It would be these small farmers that have sustainable farming where animals actually live like they used to and they roam the pastures and crap there and fertilize the soil. And so goes the cycle. But I don't think that these government agencies want to actually see that, because the people that take care of them goes against their interests. They want to sell the ultra-processed foods and the grains and sugar and all that other stuff. So again, until we make changes at these agencies, and right now I only see one way that that is even remotely possible. Because keep in mind that one particular female presidential candidate would not even take a meeting with Robert F. Kennedy, a lifelong Democrat. Not even interested in talking to the guy. But that's politics, and you know me, I don't talk about politics. But yeah, I think that I think we have how good a chance it is, and how deep this corruption goes, how eager they are to assassinate people that want to rock their vote. That's scary. That's scary, and so I don't know how effective it's all going to be, but we'll see. There's a question about the hurricanes thing. Okay. Sherry says, Dr. Kiltz is spot on with fat and hormones, super high fat. Yeah, I think I saw that one earlier. Yeah. And I'm looking down, and my voice is starting to feel like I've overused it a little. Basically, I'm saying that I think I've talked too much today. Let me look. Oh, wow. Look what the time is. 20 minutes to 10 already. Been doing this for an hour and 45 minutes. Wow. I guess after a day like I've had it, somebody who might understand that I'm not the Energizer Bunny, even though I act like it sometimes. And we still carrying it, we still got a nice little crowd here. Always enjoy these things. Reading your chats. You guys are all giving good advice to each other. That's always good to see. Bob Casey, Ariel. Bob Casey, my good friend, how you doing? Hello, Professor M. Bob Casey was the drone guy that gave me the name Professor Mitch. And that's kind of stuck. And now I'm professing carnivore and not drones. Bob, I need to start flying FPV again. I need to take a morning off and just go out there and do it. When it cools off a little bit, I think I'm going to. I'll film it. For you guys that have stuck with me and still keep track of me, my old friends, I appreciate all of you. Great bunch of guys. Great bunch of guys. And some of the drone guys are actually practicing carnivore, like Chris Hope calls me once in a while, asks me a few questions and tells me how he's doing. Just gentlemen of the highest order, all you guys are. Good to see you. Good to see you, Bob. And more questions. Let me see. I'm trying. There's so many entries in the chat. It keeps going back to older questions. Let me go all the way down to the bottom of this thing. And thought I saw one go by there. Oh, I was going to talk about, well, the Earth had more CO2 in the past. The plants need it. I don't think the woke had biology. Okay, here's the deal. And I'm going to end, this is going to be one of those little down the rabbit hole discussions, and I hope it doesn't bore you, but it's fascinating as hell. I saw a very respected scientist on YouTube. I forgot his name. Never heard this anywhere else, but I did hear it from him. Of course, the propagandists and the special interests want to demonize this guy, much like Ansel Keys. Anybody that said that fat wasn't the problem, sugar was, they got destroyed. And they're trying to destroy this guy. But he made so much common sense because he pulled out some graphs, and they've discovered what the CO2 levels in the atmosphere were over the last ungodly number of years. Millions, hundreds of millions, billions of years maybe, and they found these things, these different numbers, by drilling down into the ice cores, where this gas got trapped. And like rings of a tree, as time went by, the layers, the amount of trapped carbon dioxide in the different layers would vary tremendously. And you could tell how long ago it was by how far down the core that you dug was. And they can date that stuff pretty accurately. And they came up with a chart, and it showed that the current level of CO2 is about I think it's 400 parts per billion or million. I think it's billion. I can't tell you. So I'm talking in theoretical stuff now, not actual numbers, but CO2. Let's see. Parts per million, carbon dioxide. It's 300 to 400 parts per million. Okay. CO2 levels in outdoor air typically range from 300. There it is right there, right down here. But can be as high as 600 to 900 parts per million in metropolitan areas. Although it is most commonly presents a gas, CO2 can also exist in solid dry ice form. Okay, so 300 to 400 parts per million. I think this might be the chart. And it shows that this is what they keep talking about, how dramatically it's rising. In 1960, CO2 was at 320 parts per million, they say, and today in 2020, it's 400. So it went up from 320 to 420 in 40 years. What they don't show you here is a graph of CO2 from 2 billion years ago to today. And it has been as high as 5,000 parts per million. And interestingly enough, and this is the good part, and this is the takeaway from this, that 100 years or so ago, the level of CO2 was hovering below 200 parts per million. From a high of thousands of parts per million, while life was exploding, especially plant life on this planet, because plants need CO2. And it is a fact and proven that if the CO2 levels in our atmosphere fell below 150 parts per million, all life on this planet would die. All plant life would die. There would be no oxygen made by the plants, and all the animal life would die. So, and 100, 150 years ago, the CO2 levels were CO2 was being sequestered everywhere, in the ocean, in the ice caps, and it wasn't in the atmosphere. And the planet was on the verge of dying from not enough CO2. And then along came the Industrial Revolution, and we started polluting the air, say, with and generating things, carbon dioxide. And this particular scientist said, we saved life on this planet when we did that. And if we had not done that, life would have died on this planet. And he credits the rising CO2 levels, which are still alarmingly low and close to a point where living things die, in a range of 150 to 5,000. When you're still around 400, you're still near bottomed out. And plants prosper with much higher CO2 levels than that. So he is basically saying that human beings saved the life, saved this planet, and saved the life on the planet by pumping CO2 into the atmosphere. And he had all the evidence to show that that was true. Now, nobody wanted to hear that. I immediately said, you know, I believe that. I think that I can understand why they don't want that to get out, because they want you to think that CO2 is poison. It's not poison. And at the levels we have today of 320 to 420, I don't think it makes all that much difference as far as a factor in global temperatures. Now, when it gets up to a couple thousand parts per million, maybe it'll do something. But we've already shown, and I'm not going to argue global warming. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to argue no sugar, no carbs. But you have to sometimes look at motives of why people seem to be pushing so hard at the point they're trying to push. What's in it for them? And for the globalists, it's just more ways to tax people, sell carbon credits, scare people, take their freedoms away. That's our world today. It's sad. I see Spanky. I see. Thank you very much. Golf Addict. Thank you. We appreciate you too much. A lot, sir. You have been a godsend to my life, as also the others in this community. Thank you. Spanky, you make me blush, man. Thank you so much. Thank you. That means a lot. That means a lot. Those are things people don't normally get to hear in their lifetime. And I truly appreciate that, sir. Really. Thank you. Thank you. What a great way to close out a live stream. Wow. I got a couple of compliments like that today. It was very gratifying. God, he says, exactly, preach it around. You're so right about the climate change nonsense. Well, they can't call it global warming anymore because it's cooling down now. So they had to change their mind. Well, okay, it's not global warming, it's now climate change. That may, no matter what happens, we can say we predicted it. I predict the climate's going to change. Well, no shit, Sherlock. The climate's been changing every day since the beginning of time, and it's going to continue to change. So is sea level. Ice ages are coming and gone. Come on now. Well, the Earth had more CO2 in the past, but plants need it. I don't think the whole, woke biology. Yeah, that was how I got started on this. And people are still saying hi to each other. I still need to watch the video from today's meetup. Canada in the house. Papa Carnivore. Listen, guys. Appreciate every one of you coming in. I'm not ready to go to bed yet. I may just go out and start watching this thing. Sometimes, and this is not conceit or ego or anything, but as I'm clicking around trying to find something to watch and I see one of my own videos come up, sometimes I say, that's crazy, but that's the best thing that's been presented to me so far. And I'll go and watch myself for a few minutes. You won't ask me why. Last time when I ended my live stream, see, the way interestingly here, the way they work is I have a button up here, big red button. It says end stream. And normally when you press that button, you get a pop-up that says, "Are you sure you want to end the stream?" I try to time it so that the stream stops right after I say eat meat. And in order to do that, I have to generally push the button first so that the second window pops up so I can be ready to click it right after I say eat meat. Well, on my last Thursday night live stream, I clicked the button and it cut the stream off right in the middle of me doing my little closing. So I'm afraid to do that now. So what's going to happen tonight is I'm not going to click it till I'm ready to stop. But I may be sitting here with a stupid grin on my face for a second or two while I actually get the little window to pop up and actually end the stream. So but I have to try it that way to see what happens. So what we're going to do is we are going, give me some of this exit music. There it is. I love that. That always makes me smile. I enjoyed it, guys. Good to see you. Looking forward to Thursday night in private community. See you all there. We'll have a good time. I'll see you tomorrow morning, having my morning coffee. And that's about it. That's about it. Thank you all for the support, the super chats. And hope I didn't miss too many of your questions. I didn't notice any. Congratulations on chatting up a storm. You make me proud. So, with all that being said, here we go. Let's see what happens. I am going to say, take the rest of the day off and eat meat. Push the button and the window popped up. And now